Hey, what's up, everybody? I am here with Mr. David Allen and Dan Thompson coming to you for a Toy Talk live stream on Sunday, July 6th, 2025. We have a few topics that we want to discuss today. And how's everything going, guys?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me back. Hi, Dan. And hi, Terry.
Hi, David. Hi, Terry. Hi, everybody out there in TV land. Happy Sunday and happy 4th of July.
Yes.
As we enter in our 250th year as a country, which is pretty freaking amazing. Pretty freaking amazing.
250 years. We've got like less than 50 left before it implodes, right?
I think we'll be okay. Yeah, it's if you think about how crazy that is, you know, they always say history starts from your viewpoint of when you're born or when you become aware of things. And you think back and like, man, that 250 years ago, some really brave people took a stand, and here we are 250 years later, a very wildly diverse, rich, prosperous, free country. You know, is it perfect? No, but there's nowhere on earth that's perfect. But it sure is the damn best place to look for, you know, if you're trying to make a dream happen, whether you live here or you don't live here. You know, you could go on and on about the numerous people that have succeeded. You know, think about like an Arnold Schwarzenegger came here, didn't speak English, and became who he was. Oprah Winfrey was abused as a child, tried to enter in a media field that was dominated by white middle-aged men, and not only took it over but rewrote the book. I mean, just you just go on and on and on. Jackie Robinson, George Washington, you know, Abe Lincoln, all the great success stories. Muhammad Ali is just such a cool. I don't know. It just this is hitting me in the feels a little bit because it's, I don't know, it's to be alive at our 250th anniversary as a nation. And I just think like our best days are yet to come, and you know the future looks incredibly bright, and the future looks bright for GI Joe and other things we like, with the exception of maybe there might be a little bit of a dark cloud over the HasLab a little bit.
I think the line's dead. It's gonna fly.
It's not
death the line.
It's not dead.
Say something about they called the snake armor Dollar Tree shelf warmer.
No, it's not dead, but definitely people are being cautious because there's definitely, like you said, there's a bit of a shadow over the toy industry. People are being cautious. We're getting a lot of pre-orders coming in the last month or so. So people are being very cautious with their dollars. I have no feelings on the fact that this is going to get funded, and I believe it'll reach all 14,000 because I don't feel that the base offering for 324 is worth it. So you need the entirety of all the base offerings, all the extra stretch goals to make that 325 worth that money. Because if you don't, then I don't feel the base offering's worth that money.
I just think tactically it's a weird choice, you know, and to make it bigger than the His Tank. I think that's really stretching it.
I've showed you that last week. It is bigger than the His Tank. Technically, it is.
Which I don't know. Like in I don't know, GI Joe canon or whatnot. That just doesn't seem right. Like if you're gonna make something bigger than His Tank, make the Mobat or the Mauler, or maybe even the Havoc. Because like Terry and I were seeing a couple weeks ago, there was Havocs in the movie in the snow, and you know the Havoc's something you could probably use. Desert, snow, forest, jungle. You know, concrete, whatever. It just, what are you really going to pit up against the His Tank?
Well, if you're, I'm going to point out some issues that I see with this HasLab before we start talking about the pros of this HasLab. First off, it is in my opinion, it's a very niche vehicle, niche, however you want to say that. It's an Arctic vehicle. I think it would have been better served to make this a more general purpose vehicle with instead of having 3 named characters, have one named character, maybe two, and some type of an army builder. You don't really have the army building aspect to this, as you don't really have with most of the G.I. Joe offerings that they put out in general. It's a general purpose vehicle with a named character. Let's look at the Vamp, for instance. That was a general purpose vehicle with a named character. This one, a lot of people, I think, at least from what I'm seeing, they're buying one or two of these versus buying several of them to army build, like they would with the Hiss tank or the Rattler.
Well, I know a lot of people that bought multiples of the Vamp. I mean, I have two Vamps.
I have two Vamps, yeah.
I have two Stinger Jeeps. I mean, if I had more room and the money, I'd probably get a couple more. But there's no way I'm army building a Snowcat.
Yeah,
it's just too much money.
I have a feeling this goes to a theme that they have been building for the last year or so. It seems like normally when they do these HasLabs, they go towards a theme. So the Dragonfly, there was a bunch of stuff that came out with that. There was a bunch of stuff that came out with the Hiss tank. And the Rattler, to a certain extent, there was a bunch of things that we're hoping we're going to get a couple more. But I think there's a theme with the Snowcat. I don't think people are realizing it, because if you look at all the movie-related stuff that they're doing right now, based on the animated feature film from 1987, they had to go to the Arctic to fight Golobulus and his hordes of Cobra-La, and there was the BET they had to go find and stuff like that. So I think there's more to this. They're planning ahead. There's a theme involved, and they're trying to get us into that theme without really revealing upcoming stuff. But that's just my gut feeling, because it seems like we've already gotten Nemesis Enforcer. We've gotten a bunch of the characters from the movie already. Jinx, Falcon, Law and Order, Tunnel Rat. We got the new Hawk. We've got several Sergeant Slaughters. We got Mercer. We've got Serpentor, Dr. Mindbender, a new Dr. Mindbender, conveniently at the same time as this. So a lot of this stuff is connected to the movie, I believe, and it's all like coordinated, and I can tell what they're doing here. So if we don't get a Pythona, Golobulus, Royal Guard, and some more snow stuff in the next 6 months, I'd be very shocked.
We are getting those.
Are actually in the pipeline.
But that's
Terry.
Those Cobra-La characters are actually in the pipeline.
Yeah, we're getting all those, but like that's a weird way to sell a house. I'm going to sell it. I want you to buy it before you see the rooms. It's kind of like if you want people to shell out $325 or more, you really need to like get that theme out there. Plus, they're still doing the theme with the mass device and possibly the BET. I mean, the stuff with the mass device hasn't even all come out yet. So I think they're just kind of I don't know whose idea it was to do a Snowcat. I mean, is it awesome looking? Yes, absolutely. Do I think it needs to be bigger than the Hiss tank? No. And I don't think it's really, in my opinion, by itself, $325 is a bit much. I mean, all those figures should come with it automatically. I mean, there should be some other, maybe like G.I. Joe green shirts and Arctic gear could be the tier 3 and 4. Yeah. It just, I don't know, like, it's funny because my best friend messaged me and he said, passing on the Snowcat, just ordered the first wave of mask. And I looked it up and I was like, man, it's about the same price, and here you're getting all the mask, the first 4 or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I don't know which way to lean on that. I mean, I would love to have this, but I don't know if I like it being bigger than the Hiss tank. And I think that was somebody like, hey, let's make it as big as the Hiss tank so we can answer like Hiss versus Snowcat. So, and like you said, it's a real niche vehicle.
If you look at the Phalanx, or whatever the hell the name of it, and the Shadow Phalanx, it's very similar to this. So I don't know if they're trying to answer the opponent to the Hiss tank, or rather they're trying to compete with a third market or a third aftermarket company like that. more so, but this was on that list of 4 vehicles or whatever it was. A couple of years ago, they did that poll. This was one of the 4 vehicles. We've got now 3 of the 4 vehicles that was on that poll. We got the Dragonfly, we got the Rattler, now we got the Snowcat. So there is a Mauler slash tank situation as the next vehicle, but will we get that next, or will we get a water vehicle? They did say there, now that we got air, land, they want to work into these themes, and it makes sense. We've got Snow Job, we've got the Snow Serpents, 2 different versions of the Snow Serpent, and so I think they're just going through the motions. We're getting a snow theme, we're going to get a water theme, maybe we'll get back to a Mauler or Mobat or something down the road.
Well, here's the thing with the scaling of the Snowcat. Originally in the cartoon, it was a larger vehicle. It was larger than a his tank. It was a pretty big piece of equipment. And then after the toy came out, they had scaled it down. So they scaled it down in the cartoon as well. Excuse me.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. The one where they're at the Arctic Circle, they were pretty large. And see, I thought, because that's the Flint and Lady J are out of that episode, it looks like. And I thought, well, maybe they're going to do some, back to David's theme point. Maybe that's kind of, we're going to take like an episode and offer things from that episode, which would be cool. But I just think it's a weird, to me, this is like you do this after you have a Havoc or a Mauler or a Mobat come out. It just or you do the Snowcat, you scale it down, as you said, Terry, and you have it as a general release or a fans hobby or
Right.
I'm sorry, fans channel or Pulse exclusive, and then to me, like if you did a Mauler or a Mobat, the thing's going to be gigantic. That would be about $400, $350. I could easily see that and be like, hey, you know what? It's a giant tank. It's got all these figures that come with it. No brainer. And I mean, I think this is really cool looking. Don't get me wrong. I told David on the show last Monday with him that these people need to be designing cars or something. I mean, it's just like really well designed and laid out. I just don't know if it's worth that price though. And I think a lot of people are, I don't know anybody in my inner circle that has signed up for one yet.
Well,
Unless they have, other than, maybe you, David, but in my physical inner circle that I interact with on, weekly or bi-weekly basis. I don't know anybody that signed up for it yet. And usually, how many did you sign up for? I got 3 or 4. Or, I got one guy I hadn't talked to yet, but he might have signed up for it. But
so let's talk about some of the reasons why I personally think this is the best HasLab package that they've put together.
yeah, that's a good idea.
And I really do think that it's the best HasLab package they put together so far.
Because
Right here, you have the base offering, you have the vehicle, you have the accessories that come with it, you have the driver, and then your unlock tiers, you have Lady J being the first tier, so you have a figure that comes with it, plenty of accessories, and I believe an alt head. We'll get down to that. But second tier is a whole other play set that people have been begging for. The Bivouac.
Yep.
And then the third tier is another figure. So you're getting 3 figures and not just accessories to go with the Snowcat, but you're getting a whole other play set to go with this. A play set that could be sold individually later down the road, recolored.
Yep, definitely.
They made all kinds of improvements. They made all kinds of changes, yet still maintained the nostalgic look and construction of the original Snowcat.
I think it's more rounded. Does it feel more rounded to you than the vintage one? It looks more rounded just looking at these pictures. I could be.
It does not.
It doesn't? No? Okay.
No. Not
I think it looks pretty.
To me, everything looks like, trapezoids and sharp edges. But
I think it looks more like the original than rounded.
All right.
Even
maybe
as
maybe the back end, maybe the top there, because you got those
even
crates
as far
that
as
come off.
the Snowpedos go, the skis that are on there double as snowboards for figures.
Yep.
So you have a ton of playability with this thing, and like in this shot here with everything exploded, you have the missile launcher being able to come out. It's removable and turns into a troop transport where you could fit, I'm going to say, at least 4 figures there in the back.
Yeah, easily.
That's a pretty nice feature, considering they did the same thing with the Hiss. They added that troop transport aspect to the Hiss.
And that kind of goes back to what we said a couple of weeks ago. We weren't sure. They had to make this more modular. They had to make it more accessible so it could be used in multiple facets.
Right.
I think you can also put 2 guys on the back bumper, like standing up, holding on to something.
Yeah, it looks like
probably
there's
about
pegs back here on the back panel.
Probably got about 6 people you can get in the back there.
The team said it's not complete either. They're going to try to fit more pegs on there and do other things to make it more accessible. So they're not done making this. We got a model, and it was a very, very complete model, but it wasn't 100%.
Right. So it's not 100% done. This is not 100% exactly what we're getting. Because, one of the things they were saying was they could add more pegs onto it so you could peg more figures. But
the one thing I wish it did have is for that troop carrier thing, I wish there was a lid on that, kind of like the APC. Yeah. That's what I would wish. And I wish it was the color of the bivouac. I wish that bivouac could double as like the cover for that troop part.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea to put a canopy on it. Yeah.
I wonder if that's something they're working on, because in that soft goods.
Yes, it is. I think so.
So I wonder if there's something you could do where you could break apart those poles and put them on the Snowcat and then put that over it.
I think that would be something. If they did that, that would really make this like the best.
What do you guys think the chances are that they're like, hey, this isn't going as fast as we want it, and they throw in some more stuff like like a green shirt in the Arctic gear, or a Steel Brigade in an Arctic gear sort of thing.
I really don't think it's going to be a problem.
It has happened where the Rattler slowed down and they added the 3 figures, Cobra figures. The Hiss slowed down, and I think no, it wasn't the Hiss. It was.
I think the Hiss funded in like 8 hours.
No, one of the vehicles.
Crazy.
The Hiss slowed down, and they added the Cobra Vintage package with the Mickey Mouse. So that did slow down, and they added an extra figure to that. So both the Sky Striker and the Hiss, they've added things too because they slowed down. They didn't do it with Dragonfly. They didn't do it with Rattler. But this one, I can see them doing it. But
speaking of the Rattler, have you guys got any notification? Like, hey, your item's going to ship?
They don't send notifications that your thing is shipping. They'll send you 10 notifications that you need to make sure your email is up to date and your credit card's up to date and blah, blah, blah. And then they'll say, yeah, we charged you. And then about a week and a half later, you'll get it. But they will not send you an email saying it's on the way.
So this was actually shared in one of the Facebook groups the other day, the Pit Facebook group. And this tracks all of the numbers at what days these past HasLabs hit. And the Sky Striker is in gray, and you can see that it is the least performing HasLab for G.I. Joe out of all of them that they've done. And then right here on that last day, of course, all of them spike up on the last day. That's when they add in a ton of the international. I think it's like international and retail orders. But, I mean, the Snowcat's not performing badly.
No, it's steady. It's right where you want. It does that
like a week,
and it's steady.
A little over a week.
So we got another month, almost a month and a half. Still, it's not.
The thing
until August 15th.
The thing with crowdfunding is the first day and the last day. That's when you get your biggest bumps.
Yes.
If you pick up people during the middle of it, that's great.
I think during San Diego Comic-Con, which will be right around that crest right there, I think you're going to get a big bump once people see it in hand and see how big the thing is.
Yeah, I think once a lot of people start seeing exactly what this is going to look like in real life, I think that's when we'll start seeing a lot of the increases. Images will be shared, of course, from San Diego Comic-Con, and people will get a better look at all the stuff and have a better feel for how it's going to go.
Yep.
So Terry, where are you gonna? Did you order yours yet?
No, I have not actually. I will. I just haven't put my order in yet.
I usually get 2 of every classified thing now. That's my my go-to. I was getting 3 and 4 of a bunch of stuff. It's just got too expensive. HasLabs are just too expensive, so I've gotten 2 of each. But I'll get 2 Snowcats as well, just because. But
I heard a rumor that at the G.I. Joe Kentuckiana G.I. Joe toy show that David's going to visit us. That he's going to take my phone and my money and make me order the Snowcat on site and present me from going to Terry's booth and spending a ridiculous amount of money. That's a rumor I've heard.
Hey,
I don't know.
Hey, David, I got this like $350 charge on my credit card. Do you know anything about it? No, I don't know nothing.
Where'd David go? He was here somewhere, I'm scared to go to Terry's booth because he has a package for me.
Yeah.
I'm scared to go to his booth too, but I'll be helping him on Friday sometime.
And my son Wyatt said, Terry, he said, I'll help your friend Terry. And I'm like, you help drive him nuts is what you'll do. That's a million questions.
He is more than welcome to help sell raffle tickets for the and I'm just going to go ahead and say the name. It's Brian Ash fundraiser. I'll be raffling off one of the 3D printed Cobra temples for our friend Brian Ash, who recently had a series of strokes.
Oh.
He is home now, by the way. His wife posted that he had been able to come home.
That's good.
He still has a long road of recovery to go, but he is home. And I'm going to try and get the word out and help him out as best we can.
Well,
I tell you, this this past week's been a little bit rough in a way because we lost the great Jim Shooter.
Yes.
That's a good
And
segue.
Jim Shooter was a huge part of G.I. Joe.
So I put my G.I. Joe, my big comic here, and I'm wearing all white in memoriam to Jim Shooter. You and I are more familiar with Jim Shooter than Terry is. Would you like me to give you a bit synopsis on the history and career of Jim Shooter, Terry, for the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So Jim Shooter is probably one of the youngest writers to ever enter the comic industry. He began writing comics at the age of 14, and he got hired by DC Comics in 1966. He started writing comics as a freelancer in 1964, and then he became the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics in 1976. Arguably the best editor-in-chief at Marvel Comics after Stan Lee. And he is one of the most polarizing figures in the comic industry due to a lot of the managerial skills that he was lacking in his tenure at Marvel Comics. But that aside, he's the number one reason why we are talking about G.I. Joe today. If Kurt Busiek did not go to Marvel Comics to get them to make comic books for some sort of branding, then we would not be sitting here today, because they not only created G.I. Joe: A Real American Hero, the comic series that lasted 155 issues, several other series on G.I. Joe, coloring books, sticker books, Live the Adventure books, color forms, you name it, all kinds of publishing initiatives. Marvel also was involved in Sunbow Animation. They owned Sunbow Animation, and they made G.I. Joe the animated series. But
let me jump in real quick. Marvel was at in a really bad place financially in the 70s. And Jim Shooter was hired as at EIC at 19. So man, and he was a really, really tall, big man. So he looked older than what he was. And he gambled with doing licensing and gambled on something called Star Wars. And that ended up turning Marvel Comics around. And then they started licensing Godzilla, Shogun Warriors, the Micronauts, Rom, and then eventually G.I. Joe and Transformers. And if it not for him, none of that would have happened. There probably would be no Marvel Comics. And then one of the big things he did, and he was a polarizing figure. I don't think it was over his lack of management skills. It was his lack of it was because of his expectations. Like if you hire somebody, you expect them to show up and work. And so what had gotten Marvel in trouble was a lot of guys were just kind of like, yeah, ho hum, I'll turn it in, and yeah, could he been a little bit of a tyrant? Sure. But, artistic fellows, writers, artists and all that crowd gets a little, feelings get a little hurt sometimes, but you got to turn your work in. The wheel has to turn so the car drives, and so he didn't tolerate late books. He implemented backup stories and fill-in books. So like if Terry, you're getting ready to have a baby, so say you're going, hey Jim, I got to take 3 months off. David steps in with 3 months of backup stories, and then you're back a month 4 with the regular story. So Jim did that. And probably one of the biggest things he did was Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, which got somebody like me into superhero comics. It introduced just a whole world of superheroes to a ton of kids. And they of course, had toys through Mattel. It's weird to think of Marvel being done with Mattel.
Well, there's a lot more things that Jim Shooter is kind of credited for, though.
Creator of Valiant Comics.
He created the royalty program for comic creators, so they could get royalties if their property was done as a film or animated series or something else outside of the comics. And he created the incentive program. So if your book became a certain hit and it got to a certain sales threshold, you would get an incentive pay check for that, and kept going up the more you sold.
He also created the direct market, which is one of the most impactful things, because there would be no comic book stores without that.
Right.
So
and during the very first direct market comic was
during his run, Amazing Spider-Man. Well, let me back up. The direct market, indirect market kind of switched. Indirect was kind of like what comic book stores were. Now we're the direct market. Direct market was like your Walgreens, your convenience stores, that sort of thing.
The spinner rack.
Yeah. So the number one book in the direct market was Amazing Spider-Man. The number one book in the indirect was Uncanny X-Men, and the number one mail away book was G.I. Joe.
But do you know what the very first direct market comic ever was, though?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Well, it was in that video that I shared to you earlier. It was Dazzler #1.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, Dazzler #1 is the first comic to ever go direct to a comic store.
Yep. It was only made it for a comic book store. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was. Jim did all types of stuff. Now, was he perfect? No. But he's the reason there's a Marvel Comics. He's the reason that they're making movies about stuff that happened in his era. He oversaw Frank Miller's Daredevil, Larry Hama's G.I. Joe, Roger Stern's Avengers, Walt Simonson's Thor, John Byrne's Fantastic Four, Chris Claremont's X-Men. And Louise Simonson's X Factor. All of this stuff, on and on and on and on.
And one more other thing, he helped create the graphic novel and the independent comic format for creators to put forth their own ideas through Epic Comics.
Yep. In my heart of hearts, a couple of years ago, I was like, I wish there was some way Jim could come back. But Jim was also quoted as saying that, and I'm going to misquote this, I'm just going to paraphrase it, that when corporations get involved, it kills creativity, because he saw that Marvel at one point was owned by Maybelline, the makeup company.
Yeah.
And he said, when you have corporate suits that don't know anything about it getting involved, it's not the same.
So
Right, it's not because they are beholden to profit holders.
Yep.
did you guys
Shareholders,
watch?
they care about nothing but profits.
Did you watch any of the interview with Larry by Talking Joe during Joe Fest by chance? He told a story about how Jim Shooter would go out of his way to help comic creators get insurance and medical.
Yeah, I read that story. That was really awesome.
And so he did a lot of things behind the scenes for creatives. And just because he was a good person, and he never gets credited for that sort of stuff, he does, like you said, get a lot of flack for expectations of work and time frames and stuff like that on that work. And I don't personally hold that against him, because if you work for me and I have a bottom line and I need to meet that bottom line, I need to make sure that productivity is maintained. So people have bad feelings. It's creative types of people that have the bad feelings. But overall, I think the legacy of Jim Shooter is going to speak for itself, that the comic industry is stronger and better because he was in it.
Oh, absolutely. And just, our beloved G.I. Joe, that whole thing where he was integral in that, him and Archie Goodwin came up with Cobra. Toy books and licensed books were kind of like the bottom of the barrel. And then Larry, they asked Larry to write G.I. Joe. And I mean, I still don't think Larry gets enough credit for what he did. I mean, he had.
I was telling Terry the story off panel on how G.I. Joe was kind of created. See right there in that corner, the right-hand corner, it kind of cuts his name off. It says Shooter. So he gets a credit in there as another character, and eventually that character becomes the character Shooter in Classified. And the person that Larry made that character after is a military woman, and her sons are all in the military. She got like an honorary award or something from the military because of that. The lady that's based off of, that Shooter. But that was a homage to Jim Shooter, because without Jim Shooter there wouldn't be a G.I. Joe. Where was I going with that?
His
legend. How Larry. Okay, so look, Kurt Busiek, one of the Hassenfeld sons, went to them and said, "Look, this is a great idea. I'm going to go to my father, and we're going to get G.I. Joe back off the ground. It's a family business, but you need to do something to have a hook, and that hook needs to be something that we can grab a new generation, new kids, and new families into G.I. Joe." So Kurt Busiek came up with the idea, well, let me go to Marvel Comics. And so he speaks to he speaks to Jim Shooter. And Jim Shooter, he goes to every editor, every writer, every assistant writer, every copy writer in the entire bullpen, and then they all say no. And they finally gets to the last office on the row in the bullpen, and it's Larry Hama's office. And what does Larry Hama say? Yes. And Larry Hama is quoted as saying, "I would have written Barbie if they had asked." And that's how G.I. Joe, the comic, was made.
Well, it was also loosely based off of his Fury Force concept.
Well, yeah.
That he was trying to pitch too.
Yeah,
yeah, his Nick Fury's son and all that,
yeah.
Which I still think would be kind of a fun thing to revisit. But
we're working on that through my company that I'm working for. We're trying to get that worked out with Larry.
Yeah, I don't think Larry gets enough credit for what he's done with comics. I mean, his Wolverine run was the second number 2 book in the 90s.
200 issues he wrote. 200
X-Men.
issues of Wolverine.
No, he didn't write 200 issues of Wolverine.
Oh, yes, he did.
No, he didn't. Because his run ended, I want to say right after the 100s.
Yeah, but he did annual.
Brian Michael Bendis, Dan
Slott,
Slott, Brian Michael Bendis have the record for longest runs at Marvel on books. But his G.I. Joe, I mean, just think about it, you're writing G.I. Joe and you're writing Wolverine at the same time. How cool is that?
Well, no, he wrote Wolverine after G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe ended in 94. Hema was on it in the back in 90, 91.
So he wrote 85 issues of Wolverine.
Oh.
Pretty solid run.
But that doesn't include all the miniseries and annuals and specials that he did of it.
Yeah, I don't have that information at hand.
But he also did Avengers, and one of the most important things he ever did in the comic industry involved the Avengers. Can you name that, Dan?
Probably created Rage.
No, that was terrible. Rage got killed off. No, he made Spider-Man an Avenger.
Rage is part of the New Warriors.
He made Spider-Man an Avenger for the very first time.
He was a probationary. He didn't become an official Avengers until New Avengers. He was going to join them, but he just couldn't hang with it. Yeah, he had him in there. They teamed up.
He's credited in that 8-issue run as being an Avenger, and that was Larry Hama that wrote that.
Larry Hama wrote one issue of the Avengers, specifically number 329.
He wrote an arc. He should have wrote a whole arc like a.
Yeah, I've got all those issues, and he wrote quite a few of them, and then Bob Harris took over.
I don't know why it's saying that why Google says he only wrote one issue.
Yeah, he wrote about, I think, like a one story arc, maybe about 8 months, maybe 10 months of the book. But I mean, like, that's just incredible to be able to write a cast that's like the Avengers, and then also write Wolverine, shift gears and write Wolverine, and then shift gears and write G.I. Joe. That's just pretty good.
Wrote Bucky O'Hare.
Yep, him and Archie Goodwin.
Yep. So, but this isn't about Larry Hama. It's about Jim Shooter. So yeah, he's gonna be a sorely missed person in the comic industry, and his impact on the comic industry cannot be overstated. That he definitely had an impact, whether it be a positive or a negative. I think it's a positive, but to each their own.
His legacy would be as tall as he is, tall and gigantic, in my opinion. I mean, I think he was the greatest editor in chief at Marvel. Even over Stan Lee.
Wow.
Because Marvel, that was the biggest boom period Marvel ever had. The next biggest boom period they had, you had under the Falco era, you had Spider-Man, X-Force, and X-Men launch. So you could kind of give that to DeFalco. But then it'd be years and years and years until the Quesada era that, we had an EIC that really grew the brand, grew it to where, they started to make movies, to where they were going to be their own Disney, and then they were purchased by Disney. But all of that was possible because of Jim Shooter. And Tom DeFalco just kind of carried on what Jim was doing anyway. And I don't think he gets enough love either. But yeah, Jim Shooter, it took me a while to figure out why Rom the Space Knight took place in Clarington, West Virginia. And I believe that's where Jim Shooter was from, was Clarington, West Virginia. I was like, clever.
He's from Pennsylvania.
No, he was Virginian. He's a big Virginian.
Pennsylvania, trust me. Watch my video.
Terry's looking it up now. I can see it in his eyes.
From Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Birthplace, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Did he live in Virginia, though?
No, not to my knowledge. His father was a steelworker in Pennsylvania, and so he lived there when he got hired at DC Comics.
I concede it to you, David. That's probably why he blew up Pittsburgh in the new universe.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I don't see anything for.
It's some connection to Virginia, I thought, or West Virginia. But either way, he was just a really great guy.
Yeah, I've met him 4 times, and I did 2 interviews with him, and he's on his interview will be included in a book that I'm writing. I'm not going to tell you what that book is, but it has to do with one of his most famous runs on the Avengers. Dan, you should be able to figure this one out with just those clues.
Secrets are not our friends, David.
Well, I just can't do it because I don't want to be.
Will Terry or I be in this book? I'm just curious.
No, you won't. But I don't want to get.
I don't care. We don't care then. We don't care.
In the mail because I mentioned this on here. But you should know this, Dan. You're a comic book expert like me. But Jim Shooter had a famous run in the 70s on the Avengers. What was it?
It could have been the Korvac saga.
There you go. There you go. You got it. Oh man.
Well, I had to make up for my misstating of where get it misstating
Yeah.
Jim's where he was from. I thought
So-
he was born in PA and then moved to Virginia and grew up there. But
I believe Pennsylvania. He was born, lived in his whole life in Pennsylvania until he moved to New York. He
Right,
was.
so-
Oh, go ahead.
We have about 20 minutes left, and something that I wanted to touch on is we're all three working on projects of our own. Do you have any updates for the project that you're working on, or projects that you're working on, David?
Yes, I do. I got a bunch of projects, but I'm an editor at Rising Sun Comics, so I have 3 or 4 projects that I'm doing concurrently. One of the projects, we finally got our artist. He started on the back half of issue 1. We plan to have the entire series ready to go, and we'll be doing promotional materials and interviews and stuff, and we're going to kickstart it for Joe Fest 2026.
Nice.
And I'm working on 3 other books, another series that's come together much quicker than I anticipated because it was just a fun idea I came up with, and another one that I had a fun idea. That one had to take a back burner because my writer's on another project. They got to finish that project and then come back and get started on this other project. So this other one that I created pretty fast out of thin air is got 2 other writers. I wanted to write it, but then I was like, well, I got better writers. I'll just do heavy plots and be involved more on it. And so those projects, I can't really say what they are yet, but it involves a lot of monsters, a lot of sci-fi, fantasy, and that's the second one. The second one. The
Is
other
it
one
called David T. Allen and the Book of Secrets?
Yes, it's called. Well, it's like when you're in the comic publishing business, you can't really just give everything away. So it's.
It's
I'm
that
trying
way
to,
with anything, man. You can't really give away too much.
I'm giving the little nuggets to get people excited. But yeah, we are moving full steam ahead. Our company, we got about 10 projects in the works at the moment. I'm editing 4 or so. The other editor's doing 2 or 3. The editor in chief is going to do 1 or 2. But we're working as like a Marvel paradigm. Like you have the editor in chief, editors, writers, artists, just like that. So there, I hope that's good enough.
That's great. Dan, any updates on the Dominus?
yeah, I threw it all away. I'm starting a new book called The Trio of Evil. It involves a guy named Terry, David, and Dan, and they battle over the airwaves, but then they band together and unite into one being to fight. I don't care if anybody steals that.
Trinity. You can be the Trinity.
Yeah. It's written by Larry Hama and art by Walt Simonson. No, I wish. No, I'm getting graphics and stuff ready for the Kickstarter campaign, and still plugging away on book 3. And then I got another project with you, Terry, that I'm checking out some of the art you've sent me, and I'm digging it.
So, on that note, I'm going to go ahead and put out there who is working on at least the card art for some of the character art for the ARC project that we have going. And that is Rick Lopez. And he is a SoCal cartoonist, skateboarder. And he is the artist for his property, Cosmic Cat. And I'm going to go ahead and share, come on, 2 of the characters that he has pencil work done for. Well, almost one's done and one's almost done. So here's that. One of the first pieces of character art for one of the characters.
What's that mask?
That is part of the storyline, and will be, hopefully, that will be a major accessory for the action figure. And
That mask is going to cause a lot of trouble. I can tell you that.
yes, a lot. That's the
Yep.
MacGuffin.
Yep. Don't say what it is.
Anyway, so here's another character.
Well, they look very uniform. They look very similar in their uniforms.
Yeah, it's they're all going to be more along the lines of like action adventure type of a theme for the comic, the storyline, everything. So ARC is artifact recovery and containment. So think more along the lines of like Indiana Jones meets more mystical artifacts, things like that.
Have you had a chance to check out that video game animated series on Paramount?
I don't play games.
Well, this is a video game that's based, or an animated series based on a video game that's on Paramount Plus called The Ark. You should check it out.
Yeah, I don't really have the time to put into playing video games, man.
But it's not about the animated series is an animated series.
Okay. But just there's some adjustments that are going to be made to her, and she'll be moving to the action figure turnarounds next, and then we'll go to full color. But she has a torch that will be an accessory with the figure, and that is also an artifact.
Isn't this archaeological in nature, this series?
Somewhat, yeah. Some of it is, yeah.
Yeah, Terry's making me go back to school to learn everything.
Well, what we want to do is take like I want to say real or factual, but most of these things are just pieces of lore, legend, myth, and incorporate these into the story as artifacts that are being sought out by different factions.
Sounds like G.I. Joe to me.
What?
Sounds like G.I. Joe to me.
No.
The Sunbow animated series.
There's no inspiration whatsoever from any G.I. Joe anything that's ever been put out. No adventure team, none of that.
Who's that guy that had the snake cow that hollers, "This I command"? You were showing me.
Nothing like that. But yeah, we wanted to take some realism, some Arthurian legend, and add into it and stuff like that, just to kind of add a little bit of I guess realism to it, even though some of these things aren't really actual artifacts that exist. So
it's fiction. It doesn't need to be real.
But it may not be real.
Something people could relate to, I guess, is more along the lines of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, it sounds very cool. I think.
And some of the artifacts would be kind of considered minor artifacts,
right?
And are used as accessories for some of the characters, and then some of them are really major league. Could cause a lot of in the wrong hands. Could cause a lot of trouble. Best forgotten artifacts, pretty much.
Yeah,
they've been lost and forgotten for a reason.
Yeah, lost and forgotten.
Do you have the head of Medusa?
No,
not yet.
Not yet. That could be something that we could look at for another story.
Got to get her head off her shoulders first. She might have a problem with that.
Dan and I pretty much have the bulk of the story outlined. What this first book is going to be, and like I've said before, what my ultimate goal is here is to release a book with a set of figures that go with that story, including accessories that coincide with that story as well.
I think that the way that you're doing this is the right way. You have to start from a point of world building.
Right.
Sometimes you got to do a lot more work in the early stages to make a foundation where you can build on the foundation. And because of that extra work that you did earlier on, it's going to pay off dividends down the road because you'll have been able to plan this stuff. You can seed in elements in the story farther down and steps. And you're a writer, Dan, so you know this. It's just foreshadowing and things like that, building characters and stuff like that, and building a world. And that's very good. I think you're doing it the right way.
Well, one of the things I guess you could say we are borrowing from GI Joe, and it's not really GI Joe. It's just the concept is that you want an investment in the characters and the toys.
Right.
So we've seen where there's Kickstarters and projects in the past that toys look phenomenal, and then it just stops. It's full stop, and you just have something sitting on your shelf. So our idea is that we wanted, like say we were kids, and this is the 80s, 90s, whatever, that there's some story component to compel you to keep wanting more and to collect them. Like, oh, I really like this character and what they did in this book or this cartoon or whatever. So I want to have this character first and then, kind of build out from there. And then it's just important to us that, like, in the book, the offerings kind of match what's in the book, so we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. And then it's kind of you kind of have a complete story there with room to grow and, continue that process. So yeah, it's a fun process.
And there's also a couple more guys that I'm probably going to talk to or consult with about maybe creating a piece of card art that would be like a Kickstarter exclusive, something like that. We've got the Kentuckiana GI Joe and Toy Show coming up on July 18th and 19th in Shepherdsville, Kentucky, and our special guest for that show is Mr. Ron Rudak. And I'll get to see him and talk to him and his wife a little bit. And I'm thinking maybe of asking him if he would be interested in creating a piece of card art. That's not anything set in stone. I don't know if that's something that he would be interested in or not, but I may talk to him about that. And there's a couple of other bigger names out there as well that I'm thinking about maybe getting in touch with about adding a piece of card art, another character, something like that. I want to make this project really special. And I think
who does a lot of card art for a lot of the third party companies, and he's doing Total Recall. Yeah. What am I saying? Operation Recall for Cars and Texas is Doug Hart, and he's done some stuff for RoboSkull and other companies too. Longbow, Operation Longbow. So Doug Hart's a good card art guy. Adam Riches is also a good card art guy. He's worked for Hasbro in several capacities, Super 7 doing card art. Those are both good card art artists that are very accessible.
Yeah, send me those names in a message, and I might reach out, if not for the first wave, maybe for another wave or something.
Sure.
Basically, I don't want to say like cost is the main issue or anything. It's not, but I want to make sure that this has a good balance of investment versus return so that we can continue making more comics and more figures as well. So.
Oh yeah, that's the number one difficulty with balancing this stuff out, because if you overspend on an artist, or you overspend on a writer, or you overspend on printing costs, or this cost or that cost, and it makes the balance of the budget too much, you're not going to recoup that. And so you've got to keep that budget balance in order to recoup the amount that you need to make it profitable so you can continue.
Right.
Well, we don't want to do just one outing. We want to do maybe have every year or every year and a half or whatever the frequency can be, to have something come out, where, like I said, people are invested in it. They want to oh man, I can't wait to see this next adventure. And, in the story, Terry and I have talked about it. We'll probably keep the story they won't go on and on and on like each book. Like each book will have beginning, middle, and end. And it's done, but it'll connect to something else. But we want it to be like, not to sound like George Lucas, but kind of like those old serial adventures. But it's the same characters. It's not like a different, you like, okay, Saturday morning, where are the art crew at? Okay, cool. Now they're doing this. Now they're in Atlantis. Now they're, here. Now they're there. Something kind of like that, where you can have a bookcase with the volumes on there, and then the toys above it or something. I think that
we want to maintain repeatability, and we also want to incorporate some improvement into each successive outing for this. Like, we want every one of them to be better than the last. But we
eventually people will be talking about our HasLab.
Yeah.
I need 10 snowcats for Terry and Dan's project, so my guys have a vehicle to drive, or something. No, it's fun stuff. I'm glad we're all, got something in a lot of irons in the fire. It keeps you sharp and keeps you going. Sometimes it can be a little overwhelming.
Maybe in the future I can have you guys at my show in Florida here as my guests. Maybe we could premiere it. Oh, you're going to premiere at Kentuckiana. You already told me that.
That is still the plan, is to have some artwork to show and some information about the overall project that we're working on.
You might have something else premiering right before the Kentuckiana G.I. Joe show, Terry.
Yes, hopefully, if you'll go ahead and make his entrance into the world. Yeah, my son is trying to be born, I guess. That's
Wyatt asked me the other day, "Did we have a baby yet?" I'm like, well, it's not us, honey. It's Terry's and his wife. But not yet. They were kind of headed that way, and then it stopped. So
yeah.
So that's the ultimate Kickstarter right there.
Absolutely, and it's basically we are at a hurry up and wait stage. The things have started and are just kind of off and on right now, but hopefully within the next several days we'll be bringing a baby home.
So David, you and I might be doing Toy Talk by ourselves next weekend.
I will be in Kentucky next weekend.
You coming a week early?
Yeah, I told you I'm coming on the 12th, and I will be there.
That's right.
Until the 20th. So I'm going to try to stop by to see you at some point during the week. I'm not sure which day before the convention itself, but we're working out the logistics of what we're doing each day. We're supposed to be going to a theme park. We're supposed to be going to some bookstores and this and that and visiting different places. So we'll see. I don't know.
That'll be cool.
Cobra Emperor says the first line to make a Harley will sell out big time. Good luck licensing that. Yeah, I still think they need to do the Thunder Machine with a bunch of motorcycles as a HasLab and a bunch of extra accessories like they did with the Snowcat. Build a whole theme around this thing, a Dreadnoks theme. But I don't see how they're going to do it because you've got now 2 sets of Dreadnoks. Not any of them come with motorcycles. So it's like, when are we going to get a motorcycle?
Terry, I just got an idea. I'll tell you about off camera.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't let me forget.
Okay. Just change the name. LOL.
That's what I would do.
Motorcycle. Yeah, make a generic motorcycle that could be used in that scale. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that there's some 1/18th motorcycles out there already.
There are. Yeah. There are for Marvel Legends. They've got 3 or 4 different types of motorcycles.
No, for 1/18th.
Oh, 1/18th.
Well, somebody could crowdfund something that's Harley adjacent and call them like Code Slither Motors.
Yeah.
Or CS Motors.
Yeah.
So you know what the C and the S stand for?
Yeah.
Or Viper Motors. I mean, you could, that'd be an easy, well, I'll say an easy thing to do, but somebody could do something like that. That'd be kind of fun.
All right, guys, we are at about our hour. So thank you for joining in. Thank you for watching. And we'll be back next Sunday with another Toy Talk live stream.
Hope everybody has a great week. Good to see everybody.
Take care, everybody.